welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. My name is Lydia and I am your host and a wedding photographer based in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. On today's episode, I'm chatting with another fellow wedding photographer, Sophie Milson, who is based down in Nelson. So lovely to chat all things wedding photography with her. We go into her background, how she got into it, tips on choosing your wedding photographer, what to do if you're feeling awkward about being in front of the camera, planning the best kind of timeline for your wedding day, her thoughts on first looks and whether you should have one or not, a whole lot of amazing advice, and we also have a bit of a Q&A from some of your questions too. I think you're going to get a lot out of this one and you get a bit more insight from both of us as wedding photographers and some really helpful advice. You can jump on Instagram at the Kiwi Wedding Podcast to check out some of Sophie's work and follow her from there, and give the podcast a follow while you're at it. Right, we'll get straight into it. Enjoy episode 48 with Sophie. Hi Sophie, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. So nice to have another wedding photographer and I'm excited for our chat.
Same, I'm very excited to be here.
So to get us started, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into photography, and a bit of that journey, what's led you to today.
My goodness, I feel like this is like a long story and a very short story. So I'm going to go for a medium story. I started like in primary school. I loved cameras and we did like a little camera course and I was part of that. For like photos and videos and cameras have been a part of my life for like a very long, like since I was born. My parents have photos like everywhere. And so I guess that I don't mind being in front of the camera or behind it. So that's, I guess it's just been a bit in my DNA. And then I didn't really get into it until I had a very short stint at university. I got really bad homesickness, so I decided to come home. And I just got my job back, what I was doing, and then I just kind of picked the camera up again and just practiced all the time, practiced on everything. I wasn't aiming to be a photographer in life, but this is where I am. And I just had a lot of natural growth. And in my like first wedding season, I had like 14 weddings booked. And I was like, oh my gosh, I actually have to do these weddings. And so I resigned my job that I had and I went full time. So I went full time in 2020. So thankfully I got all my weddings done and then we went into lockdown. So, but yeah, and it's just been, awesome, steady, natural growth since. And yeah, I loved it. I just have a really cool gift that God's given me. And yeah, it's just awesome. I love my job a lot.
Oh, so cool. Nice to hear that. And that it's just been a really like natural growth journey. Can you tell us a bit about like your vibe and style of work and how you kind of work, what sort of clients you love working with?
Yeah, of course. I basically photograph any humans that are in love. And I do weddings over summer is very busy, and otherwise I photograph families and couples and bump shoots, and I have a little passion project. I used to call it the confidence project, but I want to change that because it's just morphed into a better thing. But basically that's like a one-on-one portrait style session with whoever, and it's I think from my job I've just learnt so much about styling people and just how to move your body to make you feel more confident and comfortable, because being photographed is quite a vulnerable experience, and like I've also been photographed, so I feel it and I know it, but it's also important to be photographed. Like in the years to come you need to be photographed because you're 100% worth it and you should be in front of that camera, to just pause the time on the moments. And so I just photograph whoever and head down to the beach or whatever, and through like 40 minutes an hour I get to teach them practical tips on actually how to move your body, where to put your arms and your legs and what to do with your hands, because everyone freaks out of what to do with your hands. Yeah, so those have been like, I love those. Like, I just love being able to teach people in that. And you just end up having incredible conversations. Like, you just sit down and I even like put the camera away for a minute, and yeah, next minute we're having this very deep discussion about life and challenges. And yeah, it's just such a incredible privilege to photograph people. So, but in terms of my style, I'd say very natural, very photograph who you are as you are, because there's no one better than you. But otherwise, I love clean imagery, joyful, lots of color, lots of smiles. But yeah, just very documentary kind of style shoots. But yeah, I just kind of photograph people as they are and what they're doing. And I direct quite a bit though, because I love communication. So yeah.
So good. You definitely sound like you've got the gift for it. And yeah, I love that project that you do as well. I really think that's so important, and important for like photographers to be on the other side of the camera as well. Like you say, I think everyone, it's a good thing to become comfortable with, and then yeah, capture that moment in time. Yeah, we'll probably get into it a bit later, but I know a lot of people feel nervous or awkward about being photographed. So it's such an important thing to find a photographer that makes you feel really comfortable and is encouraging and directs you. And it's not necessarily like doing these weird, intense poses and stuff, but naturally directs you, I guess.
Yes, yeah. Oh, it's so true. Like you don't have to do any weird or silly things. Like there's so much direction in like the tiniest moments, and I don't love people to be doing those kind of weird things, because like you wouldn't do that on a normal day. So yeah, I love to, yeah, keeping my shoots very natural and just who they are, and then directing a little bit in those moments is so good. But you're right.
Yeah, love that. And what do you think that couples should be looking for when they're trying to choose their wedding photographer?
A couple of things I noted down. I would, my biggest one, like number one, would be consistency when you're looking for a photographer. We photographers tend to put our best work on Instagram or Facebook. Nothing wrong with that. And so I find that like if people just base their one opinion off that one photo or the couple of photos they see on Instagram. So when inquiring photographers, I encourage people to inquire to see like a full wedding gallery, or even go to websites, because some photographers have like blogs or like where you can just see a lot more imagery. Then you can kind of see what their work looks like in all weather conditions, in all types of spaces, all types of people. You can book them and having confidence in knowing that your photos are going to be good no matter what it looks like. Also, hire someone who like gets you, like you just have a general good vibe between you, like you can have a good banter, someone who's kind of on your same wavelength. Especially, like in those first initial inquiry emails, when you're like they're sharing ideas with you, and yeah, get it, like understanding them, hearing their background, how they met, that kind of thing, and just like general good vibes between people really helps people on your level. And a photographer that also has clear communication and sets clear expectations from the start, I feel is really important. Things like contracts, clear communication in emails, like you kind of know where you both stand, you know what's expected being a bride, and then you know what to expect and what's to come when your photos will be delivered, that kind of thing, how many photos you get, just the general stuff.
Yeah, that's a great tip, to go and look at more of their full portfolio on their website, or even ask them if you can see a few full wedding galleries, because yeah, we do just kind of post the highlights or what sort of fits with the grid kind of thing. You get a bit more of a picture of the full story of how they capture a day. Yeah, so that's a great one. And then yeah, I love the make sure you vibe with them. I think that's so important, that you both get along, get each other, and you're actually going to spend like most of your day hanging
Yes,
out with them.
exactly.
So
Like, yeah, we
yeah,
never
you
leave
want
the
to
bride or
click.
groom. Yeah.
Yeah, so such an important one. Yeah, those are some great tips. I know as a photographer, you end up having quite a bit of input and sharing your opinions and stuff around the day a lot of the time. And so, do you find yourself helping couples plan their ideal timeline? And we did have a question about this from Instagram as well, actually. But yeah, what does that sort of ideal timeline look like for you?
Timelines are so crucial. Oh my goodness. People should never overlook timelines. Or sticking to a timeline in your day as much as possible is also very important. Helps things just smoothly run. So when clients book with me, on booking, they get sent like a PDF guide, and basically it's like 12, 13 full pages of just really important information and things that are so easily overlooked on a wedding day, but in the future are really important. And in that is a sample timeline, how I would, how I'd do the day. And then they just kind of book me based on hours of coverage. So like, for example, 5 hours, 7 hours, and I think 9 or 10 hours. And then, and then the timelines just go over what their day could look like in those certain amount of hours. Normally my biggest day starts like you're getting ready at the groom's for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and then to the bride, and then depending on if they want to do first looks or photos beforehand, then that happens, and then the ceremony, so on and so on. But I definitely help, and normally like a week or 2 weeks before they get married, we go for coffee and we just sit down and kind of nut out that timeline and just make sure that everything's communicated, and like I know all the details. And I love to know as much information as possible, as it just helps me do my job a lot better. Sometimes it's been quite cool where brides have actually, like, we've met up on initial kind of booking and grabbed a coffee, and they have like we've kind of done the timeline together, which has been really cool. And then I'll send them that timeline later, and then they actually used it for their day, so that's really cool. Like, any people that ask questions, they just hand them that timeline, so that's quite cool, and it's awesome to help. Like, that's what we're here for. I can't count how many weddings anymore, so like the experience that's in that, and I'm so happy to help them, to give them the advice, because I want them to have the best day. So if I can help in that way, I will.
So good. I feel like most photographers have been to a lot more weddings than the couple. And so, having that experience and seeing what works well, what doesn't, and planning the day around when the light is good, and making sure you have all of that sort of buffer time in there so you're not rushing from one thing to the next, or you are not seeing your guests at all, that kind of thing. There's all those sort of questions that you can ask them, and they can advise. Like, every timeline's a little bit different, but it's definitely an important conversation to have with that vendor specifically. I know there's been a bit of a recent trend. It's been happening for a while, but it's kind of pretty fresh this season with weddings in New Zealand, with people booking content creators for their day. And so if you haven't heard about this already, it's someone coming along and capturing essentially iPhone content, photos, videos, working alongside photographers and videographers, but for more of that lo-fi sort of content that they can deliver straight away. And have you experienced this yet? I don't know if it's kind of been trickling down to Nelson, but what's your kind of opinion around working with them?
I haven't actually experienced working with a content creator, so I can't give a lot of advice on that. I feel like it would be kind of working with a videographer, but they just follow you around, I guess. Like, I think it's a cool idea, but I think it's also one of those things where you could ask yourself why. If it's really important to you, or if you're kind of a content creator and having that kind of content is part of your job, then for sure. But sometimes it's just one of those, I don't know, unnecessary. That sounds really mean, but it could be just, one of those things that it could save your budget. Like, do you actually need that? I actually went to a wedding the other day, and I photographed it, and the couple had like a cool QR code on their table, and people could share their photos that they've just taken on their phone from the day through that link. And it was really cool. The bride and groom could just like wake up the next morning and just go through that folder and have all these images of either good or bad images. Who knows when it gets late in the day. But it's still like, it's cool. They can see their day from their guest perspective. And I loved that idea. I thought that was really cool. But having an actual content creator, I yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd personally do it, like if I got married, but yeah, it's each to their own. But again, I'd ask, yeah, why do you need that? Do you actually need that? You know, if the purpose is just to post on Instagram because you want to follow the trend, then maybe not.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, that's for sure. And I think, yeah, like you say, there's different ways you can do it with capturing your guests' content, what they take. Yeah, I think if you are going to have one, then definitely just get them communicating with your photographer and videographer so everyone's sort of working together cohesively and, yeah, not getting in each other's way. And not that there's a bit of a hierarchy, but I don't know. I think your like
Yeah, no, sometimes there is.
professional
Yeah.
images and videos are like more top priority than that content.
Yeah, and I definitely think if you do hire content creators and if you have a video team as well, then the bride and groom clear communication is really important. Especially like if you imagine like all three people walking back down the aisle together, you know, like you just it's quite a lot. So yeah, again, clear communication is really important. But I don't actually even know if we have any content shooters in Nelson.
They've been popping up everywhere on
Yeah.
Instagram lately. I feel like I see a new one every day because it is that kind of thing that's very low barrier to entry. Like everyone has a phone, and there's a lot of people out there that are just great at doing that. So, yeah, it's cool service to have, but it could definitely become quite oversaturated quite quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And yeah, I think just the communication piece always. I've had one that I worked with at a wedding, and it was, yeah, like you say, photo and video and content creator. It's maybe easier to crop them out of photos and stuff, but sometimes when they're walking through the video, there's nothing you can do. It's just going to be this person
Exactly.
holding a phone in your video. And
True.
so maybe you say that they are shooting from different angles or just staying out of the way. Obviously, want to let them get what they need to, but
Yeah, it's that mutual respect, eh?
prioritize that professional
Mm.
content that you've probably paid a lot more for as
Yeah.
well.
Just a little bit
Yeah.
more, eh?
So, speaking about spending money on weddings, I think it's definitely an investment getting photography and videography. And yeah, a lot of people speak about how that is one of their most expensive vendors. But can you ballpark talk about, or in general, how much do couples need to plan to spend on this, and yeah, why that's so important?
Man, I mean, I guess I'm biased because I am a photographer and that's how I make my living. But at the same time, like if I wasn't, photos are, I guess, a little bit priceless as well. And like in the end game, like in 30, 40, 50 years, that's kind of all you have left of your wedding day. And especially like, you know, if you start losing your memory and all of that, you literally, that's all you have to remember your day. And again, I think that's why it's really important to choose the right photographer for your day that photographs what's important to you in your day. And again, that's having those conversations at the start. I mean, I always ask my clients, like, what are your top 3 to 5 moments you want photographed in your day? And that also just really helps to know what I zoom in on and just really concentrate on getting those shots. In the long run, I mean, you might still have your wedding dress, and maybe if you dried your flowers, or if you have your suit, I guess, you know, those things are still left over. But in the end, photographs are the one thing that can outlast time as long as you back them up. It's my like another top tip: back your photos up as soon as you get them onto like 3 different sources. But ballpark for budgeting again really varies depending on your photographer. Because you can always go for ones people are starting out or like the high end. But I say anywhere between 3 and 5K, I feel, from my experience. It does sound like a lot of money, but it's so worth it. Like, I cannot express that more on how important photos are. I guess, and I've also had so many brides, you know, for maybe like 5, 6 years ago, and they were always kind of the one thing they wish they'd done was get a better photographer. You know, that makes me a little bit sad because I don't think people realize the importance of investing in a photographer until after they're married. And it's like, oh, you know, it's like, oh, really? So that's why I'm like, the passion is there to make sure you book a really good photographer for the one best day of your life kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously we're biased, but either way, it's something you shouldn't skimp on. Like, you do get what you pay for. Yeah, that's a good sort of ballpark figure to think about. And I think it depends, yeah, how much experience they have, and then a bit where you are in the country as well. Probably Auckland and Queenstown, a bit north of that sometimes as well. And then it all depends on how many hours coverage you're getting. And yeah, they have lots of different package options and things. Definitely something to prioritize, and it really is the one thing that you have to, show your grandchildren one day.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, like your generations to come, like your children and their children, like that is what you have to show them. And that's, yeah, it's so important.
yeah, and I've definitely heard a few stories as well from people being not super happy with their photos, or wishing
Yeah.
that they had spent a bit more. And yeah, that's just like the one thing you can't really redo. Like, if your cake tastes gross on the day, like,
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. But
So true.
yeah, if your photos are bad, or if, yeah, you don't get them for a long time and you have a really bad experience, then yeah, it's gonna leave a sour taste, and not something that you can't really do round two of a wedding.
Exactly. You're like, let's just do that wedding day again for the one photo. Yeah, you don't get that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely make that decision carefully, do your research. And yeah, I think what you were saying earlier as well about booking someone that communicates well, replies to your emails quickly, communicates clearly when things are going to be delivered, or if they have a delay for any reason, the wedding season gets super busy, that they just communicate that in the upfront. And yeah, you hear horror stories, or even it's a big thing. Like, I've booked weddings before because I've replied to their email quicker than someone else that was taking a
Yes.
week to. So
Yeah, same
it's
here.
important,
It is.
photographers listening, I think, prioritize that. Like, your clients are most important. And yeah, like I say, even if things are delayed or whatever, just be upfront and communicate that for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
And from all the weddings that you've gone to, do you have any advice that you can give couples who are planning theirs at the moment? So, obviously, from a photography perspective, but even just in general as well.
Oh my gosh, I feel like there's so many. I think like you can get so overwhelmed with the amount of advice I could give. Because I want them to have like not necessarily the perfect day because I don't think that exists, but like the best day. I think a couple of my piece of advice would be to trust your vendors, especially if you've done that time to research who you would like and you've obviously invested in them, like money wise as well as time and effort. So I think, if you've chosen who you love and you're excited to have them part of your day, just let them do their job. And that's so important. Let them do their job. Give them some creative license and just kind of let them work their magic. Just, yeah, don't think about them on the. I mean, do think about your vendors on your day, like feed them as well. But yeah, just let them do their job because I personally love it when people just trust me. And when they tell you that as well, like when they just verbally say, we trust you, we can't wait to have you, that just makes me feel awesome. Like I'm like, it just helps me do my job better as well because I'm like, awesome, like I've got this, I can do this. Like, how can I make their day? How can I capture it so well and enjoy that? Another thing would be like think of the big picture stuff. Like don't stress over the little things. I think plan as much as you can leading up to your day, and then just like let it go. Whatever happens, happens. It's gonna be the best day ever, and if you've got the people that you love there, they're gonna love it no matter what happens because they love you. And yeah, I think yeah, plan as much as you can, but just let it go. Think of the big picture stuff. Does that really matter? Does that small thing really matter? Like that napkin will be fine on its own. Just let it go. I think another thing would be like weddings don't have to cost thousands. I have learned and seen many ways to have an aesthetically and beautiful wedding without breaking the bank. I feel like I could write a book on how to save and how to where to budget and all of that. I feel like I could save that for another day, but yeah, I think weddings don't have to cost thousands, and that's just really being decisive on how you want your day to feel, to look, and then spending your money in the correct places. I feel like you don't need everything from the one place, or everything has to look amazing. Just pick the areas that are important to you, invest in them, and then everything else, jump on Trade Me, Facebook Marketplace. There is ways to really budget, and there's ways to save. And simple is always better. I feel like my life motto. Keep it simple, keep it classy, and if you have an eye for details, work with that as well. Like, bring out the detail. Think about the detail as well. I think some people just don't think about it at all, or think it'll be fine, and then a month later or 2 months later, I'm talking to them and they're like, oh, we wish we had thought about that a bit more.
Nice. Yeah, such great advice. Such a key piece, just trusting your vendors, and just book people that you can trust, that you've seen their work, you love it already. Yeah, whether that's photography, food, hair, makeup, whatever, just look at their previous work and just see how they communicate and stuff, and book those people that you know. You don't even have to worry about, you should not be micromanaging anyone on your wedding day.
Oh,
you should just be totally trusting them to do their job, because they're the experts and they're going to look after you.
Yeah, it's like, having that trust creates some incredible work from not just photographers, but from caterers, videos, like your design team, styling, all of that. It just, that good level of trust does create some awesome work. And like, we love it when you trust us. Like, it's so much fun.
So good. Yeah, that's definitely a key one. So I did a little question box on Instagram, so we're gonna fire through some of those.
Exciting.
Now. Ask a wedding photographer anything, and I haven't prepped you with these, so we'll just see where it goes. We've probably talked about some of it. We did kind of touch on this, but had a few saying, what is the best way to pose if you're just super awkward?
Oh, I love this.
And actually, there's another one similar, so I'll just say that as well. I'm not photogenic. How do I look natural and get the stunning wedding photos that I dream about?
I love it. I feel like the more awkward people, the better for me. I absolutely love it.
So you get that all the time as well. Just people saying, I'm not good in front of the camera. Yeah. And I'm like, you'll be fine.
Yeah. You'll be fine. I also kind of don't believe in people being photogenic or not photogenic. I think everybody is like perfect. Like, everybody is fine in front of a camera. Everybody is photogenic. It just really depends on the person taking the photo, to be honest, on how that, what the job will look like, or what their photo will look like. Again, it's trusting that photographer. It's picking someone who you've seen them be consistent in styling, or, if I could word, posing, all types of people is really important, because then like, you're going to look okay in any photo that they take. Can you say the last question again?
How do I look natural and get the photos I dreamed about? And there's actually, another person saying, should I do anything to prepare? Do I need to practice for my photos?
Actually, one thing I do say is for brides and grooms is to practice the kiss when they say, you may now kiss the bride. I feel like the nerves can get the better of you in that moment, because there's so many people like looking at you. So I always just encourage, like, spend not even like 10 minutes, just 5 minutes, and just practice that kiss. Because some guys lean the bride back, like where you put your hands in that moment, kind of all of that. I just encourage you to practice that. And I always get brides like them to hold it just for like that kiss for like a smidge longer, like not 5 minutes, but just like a little bit longer. Just because I've had like one wedding, I had this person walk right in front of my frame, like as a bride and groom kissed, and I was like, what? So thankfully they were holding it for that little bit longer. They still got the shot. The only prep I'd recommend is just to like, just let it go, like just relax, trust, and ask your questions as well. Like, ask your photographer, what should I be doing? Where should I put my hand? Like, if they're not saying anything, I encourage you to ask them, like, communicate. You know, I've photographed so many people that moving different bodies, different personalities. Like, I've seen it all, really. Like, I feel like I haven't not seen anything. So feel comfortable in that. Normally for me, I talk really fast when I am working, because I'm just like, my brain is on overload and I'm so excited. And so most of the time, I like always say at the beginning, I'm like, guys, if you don't hear me, if you don't understand what I'm saying, just let me know. Yeah, as a photographer, you need to be able to create that space for them to feel however they're feeling, for them to, because you're basically expecting them to be themselves in like 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm like, even I wouldn't, like, you know, most of the time you just meet this person or you've just been talking over email and now you need them to be themselves. And that just doesn't happen in an instant. So photographers need to learn and be able to create a very safe space. And that, I think, takes experience, practice, and communication again. Wear comfortable clothing, like especially on a wedding day, like just make sure your wedding dress is comfortable. You will be in it all day unless you change into it in the reception, which is fun. But in other shoots, I'd say wear something that is comfortable, wear something that feels like you. I don't do a client wardrobe because I want people to wear what they would normally wear, like day to day, just so that they can feel comfortable, because comfort is so important in the end game. Then you can feel like you can move more, smile more, and that just leads to your shoulders dropping, to your body and everything looking so much more comfortable. But on your wedding day, like, even if you're after dream photos, like example of those are fine. Like, I sometimes get clients to send me just a couple of photos that they like, that they've seen on like Pinterest or Instagram. And, you know, I kind of do say that don't expect exactly that, because that was probably taken in America, but where everything's very different. But it just helps me to get a little bit inside their head, like just get a little bit of what they like. And yeah, again, that just helps good results at the end of the day. I would love to help
So
that
good.
person. I love it. Yeah.
It goes back to that booking someone that you trust, and
Yeah.
that you can kind of tell in people's photos if they felt comfortable. So
Yeah.
booking someone that makes you feel that way. And then I'd say if you're super nervous as well, think about doing an engagement shoot with your photographer before the day as well, just so you can get used to the way they work, and then it feels a bit more comfortable. I think especially for guys sometimes can be a bit like nervous and weird about it, but then once they've had that experience in front of the camera and it's a bit more just like of a chill day, that's a good way to practice. But I wouldn't say that you have to be like doing poses in the mirror with your partner or anything. Like, just trust your photographer to direct you. And I think definitely just like relax and try and enjoy it on the day. I know for me, I guess it depends on their style and how they work, but I just like to do a lot of them like focusing on each other and walking and talking, and very like movement and natural, and almost just like imagine that it's a video, like just relax into the poses if you want to call it that. Don't feel like you need to hold like you would for a selfie or something and then like drop your arms and be like, okay, what next? Like, it's kind of like you're on a date, or you're just like being affectionate together, sink into it and go with it. I don't know if that made sense.
No,
but
it does. I also, I'd add to that, and like, don't overthink it as well. Like, especially as someone getting their photos taken, overthinking it can just like completely just freak you out. Because sometimes I find like guys are actually better at receiving the instructions and doing the instructions, because I don't know, sometimes I find females just a little bit too worried about what they're looking like, and is my hair on point, is my teeth clean, no, all of that. And guys are just like, let's get this over and done with. So they're just easy, they just want to be out of here. So they'll take instruction a bit better. So sometimes like I encourage ladies to just let the guy lead, like just follow what they're doing, because most of the time, you know, like honestly, like most of the time I like my clients will come away and, you know, like the wife or whatever will text me and say, like husband actually really enjoyed that. Like that was way better than what we're expecting. And that to me is just like, oh, that's awesome. And again, that's just not overthinking it. Yeah, movement is key, is what you said as well. Like lots of movement is awesome. Just helps things be less awkward. Because in the end of the day, like professional third wheel. So
Yeah, I think I just reassure people. I feel like that happens most
oh
times,
yeah,
that they're just that anxious, and there's this build up to being in front of the camera, and then afterwards they're like, oh, that was actually like fun, we
yes,
loved that, or that was so not as scary as we thought. So
yeah, I
yeah, I
love
would
that.
reassure you that most people say that, so if you can try and not be too worried about it, and yeah, trust your photographer. That's going to be the key piece of advice, I think. Someone else said, I guess it's in that vein as well, but do you know when a couple feels awkward when you're taking photos of them?
For sure, 100%. It's yeah, you can tell like this season just been. I had a wedding the other day, and the couple were like physically very comfortable with each other, so they didn't actually take a lot of instruction because they just I don't know. It's just it's who you are. Some people don't love the physical touch. But this couple were just so in love, and so it was just us three. There was no one else around, which also I highly recommend. Like especially those photos of just you and your husband, like your husband slash groom. um I do recommend just heading away with just your photographer or your video photo team,
Do the
and just
bridal
having
party, then send
yeah,
them away.
exactly. Like send the bridal party away, because there's nothing worse than being watched while you get your photo taken. Oh,
Heckled.
um, exactly. Oh, the amount of stuff being said, and you're just like, and from a photographer, you're trying to get these people comfortable, but you can tell they're like so awkward, and yeah, so I send everybody away. And it's really cool. It's also a time for them to just really enjoy it and kind of take in the moment. And then I had another wedding, and the couple were, and they had told me from the beginning that they don't do photos. Like they feel uncomfortable all the time, and they feel like they're really awkward people. And I was like, woohoo! They like, for me, they are so much more of an open book than people who kind of think they know what they're doing already or have had previous photo shoots. And so like directing them and getting them comfortable was so much, like, it was easy, it was fun. And then just to watch them relax and be with themselves, like just be with each other and enjoy it, was like, oh, it just makes my heart like just burst. But you can definitely tell people are being, that are feeling awkward. And if I see that, I just either change things up, like I reset. I don't necessarily say that out loud. It's just a lot happens internally when I shoot. And yeah, we just change it up. We might find a different spot, different location, or I just start talking and we just have a conversation about whatever, anything to help them relax. But I would say that's very normal, though. Like feeling awkward, looking awkward, is very normal. But I'd also say, like, if you think you feel awkward, um, you probably don't look awkward in the camera. Like, I've never really had that. I feel like people are like, this is really awkward. And I was like, I can tell if it's awkward. Like, if it looks awkward in my head, or obviously what I'm seeing, I'm like, whoa, we'll change that up. But sometimes I'm like, it feels awkward now, or it feels weird, but it looks amazing in the camera.
Totally. It's like every single couple is different, and some people are a little bit more stiff, or they're just like not as physically affectionate, and you don't have to be all over each other in a
Yeah,
photo shoot. We don't need you
exactly.
making out
Oh,
intensely
yeah.
in front of the camera.
No. Like, if they kiss, it's because they wanted to. I've never really had to say for them to kiss. Like,
Everyone's different, but yeah, I think your photographer should be noticing that and trying to
yeah,
make it as comfortable and directing you into the
yeah,
right
yeah,
place
exactly.
as well.
Like, I can't speak for all photographers, but for me, like, learning to read the room has become like a huge part of my job, and thankfully I was kind of already pretty good at it. So and again, that comes with reading people. So like, if you can tell they're not a super PDA kind of physical touchy person, then obviously I'm not going to go put them in really physical touchy positions, because that's not them. and my job is to photograph people as they are.
Reading the room's such a big part of it. And
Huge. Oh my
yeah, I
gosh.
don't know if this person is worried that, like, oh, do they know I'm awkward? Like, I can speak for myself and you, probably most photographers, but you know, we're not sitting there judging them, being like, oh my gosh, they're
No,
so
not at
weird and
all.
awkward. Like, it's so normal, and it's just like a fun challenge for us
Yeah,
almost to just be
exactly.
like,
That's,
okay, I'm gonna
yeah.
make them love it and feel comfortable and get in the groove. So yeah, try not to worry about that. All right, we'll go for another question. Do you prefer to take bridal party shots before the wedding or after?
Oh, that is a good question.
So before the
Um,
ceremony. Yeah.
from a professional point of view, and like personally, I'm torn because I love the kind of traditional, the groom sees her for the first time coming up the aisle. Like, there's something about that moment that is magical. It's incredible. It's just like years of a wonderful tradition kind of in that moment as well. And your family's around and your friends around, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So I do love that kind of first look. But then from like a timeline point of view, doing photos beforehand can be really handy to kind of like, if photos aren't like hugely important to you, then like kind of getting them over and done with is not a bad idea. And especially if you got people, your guests have come from like overseas or out of town, and spending time with them is really important. Like, that's a high priority for you. Then actually doing them, yeah, doing your photos before the ceremony, and then after the ceremony, just do some family photos or whatever, and then just continue on to your reception. Like, that will work well. So I'm really torn on that one. Like, I'm a real 50-50. If you do them beforehand, just make sure that you allow a lot of time, like buffer time. Because kind of the last thing, well, for me, being rushed to do the photos, especially if they're important to them, it's like a really hard job. So I always, yeah, if you are going to do them before the ceremony, either have your ceremony quite late, like 4 p.m., 5 p.m. even, and then leaving yourself a really good amount of time for travel, for having your photos actually taken, and a really good buffer time between your hair and makeup being all finished to then like getting in the car to a first look.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, I'm the same, and I probably get around 50-50 of my couples doing it either way. And I do love the smooth timeline of getting it all out of the way, and then they can just stay with their guests. They don't have to leave them for hours and kind of actually be at the cocktail hour, which a lot of people miss out on, or that kind of, yeah, mingling, canapes time, whatever it is. But then, yeah, there's the tradition thing, and also something to consider just practically is what the light is like. Because if you're doing your photos at like midday in the summer on a bright day, like, it totally depends on what the day is like, but that can be really intense, harsh lighting.
Yeah.
You get those sort of dark shadows under the eyes.
Yeah.
And yeah, so maybe you want to find somewhere with a bit of shade. Yeah, think about doing them later in the day instead. Something that I've seen a bit more recently as well is couples having their ceremony, and then they'll usually will do all those group like family photos pretty soon after the ceremony, and then they stay for an hour or two in that mingling cocktail hour time, and then we go for photos later at like 5-ish, and then back for their reception at 6, as an example.
That's
And
good.
yeah, I think that's like a bit of a win-win if you can plan your timeline that way, so you still get to have that quality time with your guests. And then in general, I would say the nice light is later in the day. Like, we all love a sunset shot, so definitely duck out of your reception for that if you need to. And this obviously depends on the season, where you are in the country. And yeah, I think another thing when planning timelines is sort of working backwards from sunset with how much light you're going to have in the day, because obviously in winter you're going to want to push everything a bit earlier, sun's going down quicker. In general, later in the day, nicer light when the sun's lower in the sky. So
Yeah.
something to think about as well for photos.
I actually had a good example the other day. They had it was quite a large amount of guests, and they had the normal getting ready, and then they had the ceremony in this little building, and then we had like group photos afterwards, and then there was like a good like half an hour where they could walk around, talk to people, and then because the area was quite big, like as an outside, the bridal party and I just kind of this is called tennis courts, and we actually just jumped on the tennis courts, got like 15 minutes worth of bridal party photos, and then that was it. And then the bride and groom jumped in my car and we just headed to a location nearby and just got like half an hour photos of that. And then they were back at the reception. So I think, like, again, that kind of works as well. Like, I don't think you need thousands of photos from your day, as long as just those key moments are photographed, and like keeping it pretty precise is, I thought that was quite a good way of doing it. But I agree, lighting is so important. Thankfully, we're coming into like autumn now, and the sun's like getting a little lower earlier, and it's so nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and we love autumn light.
Yeah.
Photographers get married in autumn. You're not so sweaty on your day. Like, we love summer as Kiwis, but autumn, it's a good season,
Autumn
guys.
is so good. I find like April and November are some of the best time for light. Like, oh, so good.
Definitely something to think about is just you don't have to follow tradition or how everyone else does it. You can do whatever you want for your timeline, your day. You can do 15 minutes of photos here and there, and yeah, your wedding day is not a photo shoot. So I don't think you should be gone for
I
like
agree.
2-3 hours doing photos. Like, yes, we love doing all those portrait ones and getting creative and stuff, but it's not a like editorial magazine shoot. It's a day that you want to spend with all your people that are there and probably won't be all in the same room again. And so yeah, factoring it in when it works, but don't feel like you need to go away for hours or
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. They don't have to take like 3 hours.
Cool. A couple more questions. Does it bother you having or been given a photo shot list?
A little bit, if I'm being honest. A little bit, because I feel like that's not showing trust. Like, that's not letting your photographer do the job. Letting them, like, obviously, like family photo lists, 100% are super important. Like, I wouldn't do a day without having that list, because that just makes those photos fly by. And one of my, like, I try to make those photos very easy and very fast, because we want people to enjoy the experience. But like, yeah, getting a list of specific photos they want during the bridal party photos, or like the ones in the morning. Like, if you're sending me a 5-page PDF, then I'd be
It's
like,
giving micromanagement.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm like, maybe not. That's a yeah, nah. But if there's like, if it's half a page, or if it's just like, hey, I want a photo with my mum, or I want a photo with each of my bridesmaids, that is 100% fine. And normally I'll do that anyway, to be honest. You have to trust your photographer. Like, you chose them, so let them do it. But do communicate as well. Bit of both worlds in there. But yeah, 5-page PDF is too much. Half a page,
Yeah.
it's not too bad. That's what I would say.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, obviously all the group ones. And then, yeah, I think if it's like people and something super specific, like I really want a photo with my uncle that's come from America or whatever, and like you're not going to know who that person is, then definitely tell your photographer that. But we don't need every like a photo of me looking down, a photo of my back, a photo of me looking to the
Yes.
sky, like
Yeah.
that sort of detail. Just trust
It's a
them.
bit
Like,
much. Yeah.
book someone that you like what they do, and then you don't have to micromanage that way.
And again, that's why seeing that like full gallery when you book someone, getting them to send you like a sample gallery or just a full one, you get an understanding of how they shoot and the style, and that is just so important. Like, it makes your decision a lot easier, and you can learn to trust them with that.
Thoughts on not having a traditional bridal party but including your special people in photos instead?
Love it. Why not? Yeah, I actually had this wedding season. I had a bride and groom who didn't have a bridal party, but we had like a segment in the day where we went to, we met all their friends at a location and we just did like friends photos, and that was quite cool. That was fast. It was great. But honestly, like whatever works with you. It's more affordable without a bridal party. If you want to look at the budget. But again, it's your day. Just rock it is what I would say. Like don't regret or overthink it. It's your day. You want to enjoy it. Think about yourself. And you're allowed to think about yourself. Like the amount of times where people are trying to please their guests is it's just overwhelming. And I'm like, just think about yourself. You're allowed to think about yourself. It's okay.
It's no rules, do whatever you want. And yeah, bridal parties can be a massive expense, and there's other ways that you can involve people in your day. And even if you, yeah, invite a few special people to get ready with you or do photos, like you said, that's a cool idea. So
Yeah.
yeah, change it up if you want to. This is a goodie. What inspires you, and how does one get inspired?
I'd say the people in front of me do very much inspire me. Um, how they move together, how they communicate together, their background, how they met, the if vibe is the right word, I'm not sure, but the vibe they give off, all of that inspires me. And helps me to create. Sometimes location is also on a wedding day. If we're talking wedding days, location is quite big when it comes to helping the creativity flow. And also the bride's dress would be like a lot. I like that for me is 60% of how I get creative. Sounds crazy, but it is. Especially like when you combining a location and the bride's dress together, like that for me is really important and helps things flow. On like day-to-day shoots, kind of the same thing. The family, the people, and people, a lot of people, to be honest. Sometimes Pinterest every now and then really inspires. I guess just seeing people through like my eyes and how I document is also quite inspiring because everybody sees things in a different way. And so getting this privilege to see people, like to photograph people how I see them. And yeah, if you're starting out or learning or wanting to do photography or whatever creative industry you're in, practicing is huge. And I would say taking breaks as well, especially in wedding season for me. Like I like to take sometimes if I can, 2 weekends off, or even just a couple of days in the week to just go out and do something that's not job related. Really helps as well, just to like reset the mind.
Yeah, so good. I feel like there's so much you can say there about
It's
yeah,
a good
allowing
question.
space to like refresh and be inspired, and then even I don't know how to explain this, like noticing how you see the world. I think
Yes.
yeah, a lot of my friends probably think I'm weird, but I'm always like looking and be like, oh, that's such pretty light. Like,
Yes,
what a
exactly.
cool field. You're
Yeah.
just sort of like noticing and framing things in your mind all the time. And yeah, nature's a massive one for me that inspires me, and just being out in it. And then like empty space, that's probably not the right way to say it, but like we're on our screens so much all the time. So that's why they say people have like incredible ideas when they're in the shower, because you're
Yeah.
disconnected
Oh
from
my gosh.
everything. But
Yes.
yeah, the whole like putting your phone down, going for a walk, yeah, allowing space for ideas, and then consuming content as well, that beautiful films, or whether that's yeah Pinterest, or looking outside of your craft, I guess, as well. So it's not always looking at other photographers' work. You might be inspired by different artists, or yeah, anything really.
Yeah, I'd say no, you're totally right with following the right people on socials is quite key. Like I don't think I follow like maybe follow like 4 or 5 photographers. Just because like comparison is a thief of joy and you don't want that to get to you. But no, you're right. Like, yeah, I do a lot of watching during wedding days because that you just pick up on things, you notice things, and then you zoom in on them, and that's can help the creativity as well. Lots of noticing, you do a lot of watching.
I feel like you never switch off from that, and just always like seeing photos in your mind, and yeah, it's a gift.
Yes, exactly.
So, last question. What is your favorite part of a wedding day and worst part if you have one?
My favorite part is probably the speeches, to be honest. Most of the time it is. Because I love getting to know people. Like, I love learning about what drives them, what their passion is, how they grew up, just all of that stuff. Like, I love it. And like the context, like the why in people as well, like what drives them, what gets them up in the morning. So sometimes in the speeches you can learn more about people, and they're also quite humorous, and people are kind of learning. But by that point, people are relaxed and just enjoying the day. And it's a little bit of a time where I can kind of put the camera down just a little bit and kind of just embrace the moment and enjoy being part of the day. But I always, speeches are awesome, and there's lots of time. People get affirmed. There's lots of like emotion as well, and people get to say wonderful things about each other, and that is such a precious thing. Like, that is so cool. People just affirming and being vulnerable. Again, I love that space. But otherwise, I quite enjoy bride and groom photos, like just on their own. You've got no one else around. You just get to hang out with them, take cool photos. And my least favorite part probably is like starting the day, like actually getting myself like going, like, because normally the first thing I do is like the groom and his groomsmen. So like walking into that space is sometimes intimidating when you've got like, I don't know, 7 guys just waiting to be photographed
sometimes.
Yeah, literally. Oh my gosh. So the amount of times I walked in, I'm like, whoa. And then and getting the day started, like getting myself in the zone. And then sometimes like after the ceremony, like when everyone's kind of mingling and you've taken as much photos as you can in that moment. Because I like to keep going during the day, like it just helps me stay in the zone, helps me keep going. Actually, I do have one thing I don't love during a day, and that's taking the massive group photo of like all the guests. Oh, the amount of times where I'm like, you got to climb a ladder in front of like 120 people, or you got to get them all just listening to you for the one moment, and I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do it, but it's fine. That is probably my least favorite part of the day. To some couples, I'm like, are you sure you want that photo? Like, are we really sure about that?
I don't know what people, if anyone ever prints that one or whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly. That's the thing. I'm like,
do it.
Yeah, because sometimes you can't even get that high to actually like see everybody's faces.
Oh, so good. Been so lovely to chat to you today. So much great advice. So I'm excited for people to hear this one.
I'm so excited too. I am, so stoked to be here and to share the little pieces of advice I have. Thank you